Don't put off learning phrasal verbs any longer. The moment is now. Put off, by the way, means to postpone or delay. That's number one. In this video, you will learn why we use phrasal verbs and when not to use them with lots of examples. And in part 2, you will get 35 more phrasal verbs with their one-word substitution. This part will be done like a quiz. It'll be fun, I promise you. More on that later. Introduction is over, so let's go. We use a lot of phrasal verbs, and for students of English, they are one of the most difficult things to master. But you can't get away from them. They are everywhere, and sometimes they are difficult to work out. We know the base verb, but when the preposition is added, it changes the meaning entirely. Think of call. You know that word. Add off, and you get call off, which means to cancel. I called you to call off the meeting. By the way, that's not an elegant sentence, is it? I called to call off the meeting, so I'd prefer to say I called to cancel the meeting. So point one, sometimes we just use phrasal verbs for reasons of style. But beyond that, how do I know when to use an ordinary verb and when to use a phrasal verb? Phrasal verbs are, shall we say, more friendly in everyday language than ordinary verbs. That's why they are often the first choice. So for example, in the morning, we say we get up and not we rise. I get up at 8 a.m. every morning. I rise at 8. That's perfectly fine, but how often do you hear that? Phrasal verbs can be ambiguous. So for example, I picked up my friend. Now, does that mean I collected her from the airport, for example, or did I take her in my arms and lift her? Context is important with phrasal verbs. The phrasal verb might have several meanings, some of which may be figurative. So, for example, to break down. The car has broken down. Our relationship has broken down. Here, to break down means to suffer an emotional collapse. She broke down in tears. That's why if you need to be precise and to avoid misunderstanding, you'll often choose an ordinary verb. For example, the pilot might say, the engine has malfunctioned and we must land as soon as possible. I imagine that is what a pilot would say and not the engine has broken down. Though I'm not a pilot, so I don't know for sure, but in many situations, you want to be as clear as possible. Of course, context shows us that an engine can't suffer an emotional collapse. But nevertheless, we don't want to place an element of confusion, how small, into the statement. So in technical language, we often avoid the phrasal verb. Ordinary verbs often have a higher level of formality. In order to be more formal, you often choose the ordinary verb. Notice I keep saying often, because even in formal speech or technical English, you would still use a fair deal of phrasal verbs. You can't avoid them entirely in the English language. Anyway, look at these two sentences. When you enter the building, follow the corridor and then exit through the glass doors. Number 2. When you go into the building, go down the corridor and then go out through the glass doors. When would you use sentence 1 and when would you use sentence 2? Of course, both sentences are perfectly correct. Sentence 1 sounds more formal, and perhaps when you're writing instructions, you would use it. But when you're explaining to your friend, sentence 2 sounds more natural, but stylistically, once again, it's not that great as you've used the verb to go 3 times. So you have to make the choice of what's more important, everyday language, style, or formality. Phrasal verbs sometimes give extra information, Adding a preposition to a verb, that is turning into a phrasal verb, can add some extra information. For example, to eat, you know what that means. But why would we say to eat up? The up here can mean completely. Eat up your vegetables means eat them all. Similarly, drink up means finish your drink. Drink up, we have to leave soon. It's the same with clean and clean up. Up means to the end or completely. Can you clean the table? Okay, but can you clean up your room? That emphasizes that it needs to be cleaned completely. All the room, all parts of the room. Adding a preposition can change the register. A register in linguistics is the way of speaking you would use in a particular social setting. So, for example, you would speak to your friends in a different register than you would speak to a judge in court. With that in mind, what's the difference between to meet and to meet up? Well, they both mean the same thing, but you use them in different registers. You'd say to your friends, hey, let's meet up at the restaurant. Whereas you'd say to your boss, can we meet? I need to discuss something important. Another example of this is to hurry and hurry up. Both mean the same thing, but they are used in different registers. And by the way, I'll say more about registers in a future video, which may already be out depending on when you watch this video. So catch that one when you can. So adding a preposition can sometimes add informality. Next, phrasal verbs and ordinary verbs rarely have exactly the same meaning. The ordinary verb can have a narrower meaning, or the phrasal verb can mean more things. So, for example, go ahead. It can mean proceed. Our offer has been accepted. We can go ahead. It can mean to go to a place before the others. You go ahead and I'll meet you at the station. And sometimes there is no one word equivalent to a phrasal verb. For example, an aeroplane is on the runway and then it takes off. Can you think of a one word substitution for take off? I can't. But if you can, then let me know in the comments. But the point is you can't avoid them altogether. Even in the most formal technical language, you'll still have to use phrasal verbs. If you want to improve your vocabulary, grammar, or pronunciation, we've got it covered on this channel for improving pronunciation as well as watching all of our excellent videos. You need to practice a lot and get feedback. And that's why I'd like to recommend an app that helps you to do that. And that is Elsa Speak, the sponsor of today's video. Elsa uses AI to rate your pronunciation and fluency compared to that of a native speaker. There are more than 1,600 lessons on over 40 topics. And as it so happens, there is a lesson on phrasal verbs. So you can improve your pronunciation and learn vocabulary at the same time. And instead of just talking about it, let me give you a little demonstration. Hey, how are you?
I'm great. Glad you made it.
This time I'm going to make a deliberate mistake. Instead of saying this place, I'm going to say this place. Me too. This place is hard to find. I had to look it up twice on my phone. And as you can see, Elsa has picked out that mistake and shows me how to say the TH sound correctly. Let's try again. Me too. This place is hard to find. I had to look it up twice on my phone. There you are, got it right that time. There are two links in the description. One is for downloading Elsa and getting 7 days pro membership for free. And the other link gives exclusive discounts of 40% off a 1-year membership and an amazing 85% off the lifetime membership. And that'll save you $400. Thank you to Elsa for sponsoring this video. Welcome to part 2. We'll do this like a quiz. So I'll give you a sentence with the phrasal verb and you give me the equivalent ordinary verb substitution. I'll make the sentence easy enough so that you understand the phrasal verb from the context, even if you don't know the phrasal verb. Some are easy, some are difficult, and I've chosen a good mix that I hope will boost your vocabulary of phrasal verbs and ordinary verbs too. So let us know in the comments how you do. Good luck. You were rude to me once. You were rude to me twice. Not anymore. I won't put up with it any longer. What do you think? So the closest verb I could think of is tolerate. So if you've got tolerate or something similar to that, then give yourself a point. Why are you disobeying me? I'm the boss and I expect you to carry out my orders. Carry out. I would say execute. Execute my orders. That also works. Or something similar to that. You'll get a point. Look at this photo of your mother when she was young and you can see that you clearly take after her. Right, I think resemble. Resemble will get you a point. We are organising some games for the children. I hope everyone will join in. Join in. What do you think? Yes, participate. What a mess this room is. This afternoon I'm going to stay in and sort out my files. Sort out. Organise. The teacher told me off for being late again. Now, to tell somebody off, you could have chastise, I guess, or rebuke, or scold, or perhaps there are others with a similar meaning. The important thing, of course, is to understand the phrasal verb. There's not always one correct answer, but 3 I gave you are close enough. I got an expert to look at the plans, and she pointed out a few mistakes. So the phrasal verb is to point something out or to point out, and the ordinary verb would be indicate. She indicated the mistakes. I've been looking at these figures for hours. They just don't add up. It's difficult to find an ordinary verb with exact meaning, but the closest I have is tally. That works. The figures don't tally. Before we begin our meeting, we should set out the rules. Okay, set out, establish. How about that? It looked easy, but it turned out to be difficult. Turned out, the closest I could think of is to prove. It proved to be difficult. That works. They've had it their way for too long. It's time to fight back. So the phrasal verb is to fight back. The closest I could think of is retaliate. So give yourself a point for retaliate or something similar. It looks like there is no way I'm going to win this election. It's time to give in. Yes, to give in. That could mean to concede, I guess. I'll also give you a point for capitulate or admit defeat. Well, that's 2 words, but give yourself a point anyway. If you become a vegetarian, you have to give up eating dead animals. So to give up, you could say quit. Could you hold on a moment? I'm trying to connect you. So to hold on means to wait. Hang on, by the way, also has the same meaning, to wait. The organisation is made up of a director, a secretary, and the members. So made up of, okay? And the ordinary verb is to comprise. It's comprised of. I was going to invite Eva to the wedding, but apparently she has left the country, so I'll cross her off the list. To cross somebody off, you could say delete. I've been going out with Neela for 30 years. She wants to get married, but I think it's too soon. So to go out with someone, that means to date. You said you'd help me, but where were you? At the pub, drinking ale with your mates. You let me down. Okay, to let somebody down means to disappoint. You disappointed me. They won't accept our offer unless we increase it by $10 million. Could you pass on the information to the director? Okay, so to pass on the information. I would say forward, perhaps, or maybe transmit the information. That's a bit more formal, but give yourself a point if you've got something like that. He told us he ran a company with 50 people and that he had a PhD in quantum physics, but it wasn't true. He made up the whole story. Okay, to make something up means to invent. He invented the story. He lied. Maybe also you could give yourself a point to that. I was trying to write my thesis, but the sound of my neighbor playing the drums put me off. Okay, to put somebody off means, in this context, to distract. Those shoes you're wearing hark back to the fashions of the 1970s. Okay, hark back, that's a phrasal verb, a little bit more unusual than some of the others we've been using, but do use it, and it means to evoke. To evoke. It evokes the fashions of the 70s. Sign up for our new cookie baking course here. To sign up for something, you could say to register or maybe to join, something like that. Give yourself a point. Oh no, I got the dates mixed up. Okay, mixed up simply means confused. I got the dates confused. Tonight after work, I'm going to chill out in front of the fire in my dressing gown and slippers, smoking a pipe and drinking a dry sherry. Okay, so we have chill out. Chill out simply means to relax. You could also have a point for unwind as well. That also works. I'm going to unwind this evening. I've just completed 16 hours at the factory. I'm worn out. So if you're worn out, it's another way of saying that you are exhausted. Okay, I've worked 16 hours and I'm exhausted. Both work perfectly well. I know you're tired and you want to stop, but no, you must keep on until the end. So keep on means continue. You must continue until the end. Oh no, what have you done here? You've left out the most important points. Okay, to leave something out means to omit. You've omitted the most important part. The files were stolen from the safe on the 3rd floor. Okay, I'll look into it. Okay, so to look into something means to investigate. How's your new job going? Well, it's difficult, but, I get by. So to get by means to manage. It's difficult, but I manage. Someone asks you, how good is your English? You could say modestly, well, I get by. You can't smoke on the train. Put out your cigarette now. So to put out the cigarette means to extinguish. That would be much more formal, but it works. Extinguish your cigarette. Most people would say put out, though. It was a stupid idea and I refused to go along with it. So to go along with something means to comply. I won't comply. I'd like to bring up an important issue. To bring up, what does that mean? It means to raise. You can raise an issue or you can bring up an issue. It's the same with children. You can bring up children or you can raise children. Both work. I offered him a salary of £1 million a year, but he still turned down my offer. The phrasal verb is turn down, and you could say reject. He rejected my offer. When are you going to cotton on that she doesn't want to help you? She wants to destroy you. Okay, to cotton on has a similar meaning, maybe not exactly the same, but very similar meaning to realize. When are you going to realize that she wants to destroy you? Let me lay out our plans here for our marketing campaign for this year. So to lay out your plans means to present. Yes, to present your plans. That works well. Give yourself a point. I hope you worked out those phrasal verbs. Now go ahead and start using them. Keep on keeping on. I'm off and I'll see you next time. Bye.